Welcome, everybody. This is the Kickstarter Spotlight panel, or it was going to be a Kickstarter Spotlight with just Oriana and I. And she's like, but what if we have more people that are amazing and we all get to talk? And I said, that sounded amazing and so much fun. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to have all of these wonderful people, and I'm going to have them go down and introduce themselves so you can also know who they are. Thank you.
So my name is Intisar. I write young adult fantasy. My tagline is writing mighty girls in diverse worlds. I have helped with one Kickstarter and run 3, 4 of my own. And it's been a great experience, so I'm happy to share what I can with all of you.
My name is Bryce O'Connor. I am an indie author myself, but in this context, I'm best known as the CEO of Braithmark Creative. We are the second largest publisher on Kickstarter after Dragonsteel. Dragonsteel is a different beast. And unfortunately, Brandon couldn't be here. Shocker. So you got me instead. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Oriana. I'm the head of publishing at Kickstarter. I get to work with lovely folks like these and literally hundreds more. My job is helping them figure out what Kickstarter is about, help set them up for success if they decide to use it. So I'm happy to tell you everything I know if I can.
We have a chat. I'm Sandra Tayler. I've run Kickstarters at least annually since 2013, so I've been doing lots and lots of Kickstarters, lots of experience. My current project was Structuring Life to Support Creativity, which is a book to help you make more space in the life you have for the creative work you want to be doing. And I get to ask lovely questions, so I am so excited. So I think one of the things I was very interested in when I learned I get to talk to Oriana was the insider view of Kickstarter. What does it look like from the inside? And then tell me, like, these are your friends, and you're like, tell me what the connection is here and how and bring it home.
Okay, golly. I'm just interested for the chanting. I'm getting closer, but tell me if it gets too loud. From the inside view of Kickstarter, I mean, I'm pretty sure I have the best job in the company. The outreach team is the coolest team. I spend 95% of my time just talking to creators, authors and publishers and illustrators. I also used to run the comics category. I also sort of run the journalism category, although it's very, very small. But publishing, even within that incredibly cool team, publishing and comics have always been the sort of like backbone of the Kickstarter categories. Publishing has grown by every measure every year since Kickstarter was born. It's never been like the biggest money earner, but it's also never slid at all. It is one of the best product market fits for Kickstarter. The barrier to entry, relatively low. We can hear from these folks about all the nitty-gritty about book production, but I'm pretty sure it's easier than making a tabletop board game or a smart suitcase or like many of the other things you can create on Kickstarter. It also has a low barrier to entry for the backers. Books can be extremely inexpensive and all the way up to gorgeous high-end deluxe editions, of course, for the collectors. I also get to work with publishers and magazine writers and podcasters, just like anyone. Also like literary museum exhibitions. If folks know the Kurt Vonnegut Museum Library, that started on Kickstarter. And literary inspired chocolate bars. So like anything to do with words, I get to both see it, support it, and also reach out and like talk to the people who are making it happen. So yeah, I have some stats in my pocket if you want like numbers about Kickstarter publishing, but it's going really well and kind of getting better all the time. So totally thrilling. How I know these folks, I look at pretty much every project that launches on the platform. That is more people than I can possibly be in touch with, but when something catches my eye for any reason, I'll typically reach out, let people know that there are people who work at Kickstarter. People are surprised to hear that, and that I'm available for, someone said that to me on the show floor yesterday. There are people at Kickstarter? It's not just a chat. I don't remember anything about them if I did.
Are you waiting to be replaced by AI?
I mean, aren't we all there? Where's the wood? Anyway, so I reached out to Bryce. I think first or maybe your second
I
campaign.
think it was my first.
I think it was the first, just to be like, hey, it looks like what you're doing is cool. It turned out we were both going to GenCon a few months later, so we met, we became friends. He is now basically my biggest creator. So yeah, we get to hang out all the time and it's pretty nice. I met Intisar through Bryce because Bryce, in addition to making incredible books with Birthmark, is like amazing at creating and building community. And so he's got several, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm saying nice things about you. What did you think we were going to
Not
do?
used to stuff like this.
Well, I'll stop talking really soon. I won't say any more nice
Yeah,
things
that's what I was
about
going for. I was going for you should stop talking.
That's what, yeah, I mean, that's the way it always comes to me.
Yeah, that's.
You want my
Anyway, Bryce is so funny, guys, and Intizar even more fun. Why don't you say some things, Intizar?
other questions were all for you.
I know, well, tell you. Oh, I won't take it. Yeah, go ahead, Sandra.
No, it's fine. Actually, I would love to hear your entrance into Kickstarter and how you got there. What was your experience there?
Yeah, so my first experience was working with an anthology called The Alchemy of Sorrow, which is a SFF anthology on Greek and Hope, and it was run by a friend of mine. And she was putting it all together. Her name is Virginia McLean. And I was like, oh, Kickstarter is really neat. She's like, yeah, you want to help me? And I was like, sure. And it allowed me to kind of learn the ropes of Kickstarter with someone, which was really a really solid way to kind of figure out what I was doing before I actually needed to do it for myself. They were putting out a deluxe edition, which is exactly what I needed to do. About a year later, I had a series that had gone trad, and then my publisher dropped the final book in the series. My British publisher, held on to it, but I needed to do the North American edition, and I really wanted to do an audiobook with it. And so I took my Kickstarter knowledge and I did a deluxe edition of that third book on Kickstarter to pay for the audiobook, and it worked amazingly. I'm very, very grateful. I had a lot of fans come out and a lot of just organic Kickstarter traffic, which is a really cool aspect of Kickstarter. I keep looking at Oriana because I'm like, I don't know how that magic works.
Oh, I mean, I can speak to that, but I'm not going to interrupt you.
And then from there, I was just like, this is a really cool way to both create beautiful art for my books that I can then launch with, so I'm covering my publishing costs before I actually launch my book. And I think that's one of the real critical pieces of Kickstarter, is being able to get your Kickstarter funding before you have to actually make your product. It's really important to have mock-ups, to have early art, to show that you are going to deliver a really gorgeous and quality product, but you don't have to have it all finished. And you don't have to have it all paid for at the time that you launch a Kickstarter. And so that allowed me to then do deluxe editions of all of my new series that has provided like end paper art, gorgeous deluxe editions, as I mentioned. But it's also covered things like the cover design, the editing, just things that I would be paying for out of pocket up front get covered, and just allow me to make a really solid book, and then I launch or release without having had to cover anything out of pocket. So I love that. Sorry, I feel like I've repeated things 12 times. I've been on the floor.
It's
So
a
my
convention.
brain's a little fried. Yeah. Bryce was like, it's 4 o'clock. I was like, what?
You got one in like 6 months.
That's awesome. I wanted to grab a couple of things that you said as a group. The community aspect. Talk to me about, because publishing and releasing a book can feel very, very lonely so very often. And for me, one of the surprises running a Kickstarter was, and it continues to be a surprise, but I've run so very many. People show up,
Yes.
and then there's this collective experience that we're having with this one project that I have to deliver on, which is terrifying. But talk to me about community building and
So I think that's one that
please.
I can speak to a little bit. So we're going to start actually with a practical. I'm going to talk to you guys for a bit. Raise your hand if you have done a Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Raise your hand if you want to do a Kickstarter.
Okay.
Awesome. Amazing. So raise your hand if you know what the hell you're doing with that Kickstarter that you're thinking about doing. Fantastic. First thing I'm going to tell you to do. Okay, who's doing it for a book? Oh, you guys are doing it for other stuff too.
Games.
It's all
Awesome.
games.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Okay. One of the things that you should do is ask people who are doing games and doing books for their help, for their experience, for their feedback. You guys are already doing it by being here. But if you were doing it for a book, what I would have said is go to one of our Kickstarters. Can I let curse? Can I curse? Copy the shit out of our stuff and then just modify it to fit your stuff. Because what Braithmark has done, we have a fairly winning formula on occasion. Sometimes it doesn't go so well, but hey. And if you use that, and if you kind of study how we do stuff, and if you ask us how we do stuff, if we have the time, which we don't always do, we're happy to just sit down and have a chat about, like, here's our experience, here's what we think works, here's what we think doesn't. But for example, like, we stick with Kickstarter completely. We use BackerKit on the back end because we think that they do that part better. But when it comes to Kickstarter, we think that Kickstarter is the place to do this, and we can give you that feedback and we can give you those thoughts. So for board games, like, I have friends that run ZSG, they do zero strategy games, they just did like 200K on their first project. That's the kind of thing that, like, you can look at and you can ask, like, hey, can I get feedback on this? Can I get thoughts on this? Could you guys give me some help here? Chances are you won't always get a response, but if you ask enough people, they will be there to help. Because the community is not just the people that are there to back, which I can also speak to because that is a huge, huge thing, is the community element of Kickstarter. But it's also the Kickstarter itself. Like, we've done trades back and forth. So like the Alchemy of Star was something that we were partially involved in, and then you guys have shared our stuff, and then it also gets recommended. And so the community aspect of Kickstarter is the entire reason why we use Kickstarter and why we like Kickstarter. I can talk about like the backers as well, but I'll shut up now.
Well, and I just want to add one small thing to that, which is that if you are even a little bit Kickstarter curious, the best thing you can do for yourself right now is pick 5 campaigns on the site and back them, even just for $1. Find and follow the creators wherever you like to follow people on the internet and watch what people are doing. I say this in every time I give a talk. I'm an expert at Kickstarter because I stare at Kickstarter all day long, and you too can stare at Kickstarter all day long. You can find all the best tricks and you can make them your own.
The additional thing I want to add to that is there are a lot of forums and community spaces where people are sharing information. So as an author, there's like Facebook groups for, Kickstarter for authors, and it's amazing, and run by someone, Anthea Sharp, who will mentor the heck out of anyone who wants to run a Kickstarter. There's so much information available. Kickstarter itself has a Discord community that shares a lot of information.
It's very small. There are probably better Discords.
But it's there. It's a start. Like there's, I don't know the gaming community and the other kind of spaces for the other variety of Kickstarters that you might want to run. But chances are there are communities. So as you're reaching out and saying, hey, could you review this, or would you be willing to give feedback? You can also ask, like, hey, are there any spaces where you share information that, and find those spaces. People, I think one of the really cool things both about Kickstarter and about just being a creative is that we lift each other up. And those spaces are there, so if you're not connected, this is the perfect time to start reaching out and learning. And I mean, for me, the whole reason Virginia took me on is because I saw on the horizon that I would need to run a Kickstarter, and she was like, do you want to learn with us? And I was like, yes. Thank you. And it made all the difference, because otherwise it felt like this big, impossible thing. And my Kickstarters they're not like Braithmark Kickstarters. I'm very much like a mid-list author. But they are very solid for me. I cover my expenses. I get the equivalent of 1 or 2 paychecks out of it for myself. That's a great start. And so also kind of keeping in mind what is a realistic size for your project. What are you trying to cover in your funding? And you might go huge, but you might not. What makes sense for you? I think it's just a critical piece of that, and being part of the community is going to help you figure that out.
You said the rising tides thing is such a massive thing, especially in Kickstarter. Not only can you guys hear me okay? Because I'm assuming okay. So not only is there like the recommendations that Kickstarter has, but even I know this is also true in the board game community. We're talking from the book community, which is honestly very parallel because of the sci-fi fantasy kind of element that goes there. And I'll read back to a lot of board games. The rising tides element is really, really true of finding that community and finding the projects that you're interested in learning how they do it because of the backer community, which is one of the amazing things about Kickstarter that we love to do. So in our world, does anybody here know what a book box is? No, this is totally, okay, so this is totally fine. So book boxes are basically groups that will license a book and do a special edition, and they'll do like 2,000 units of it, which is awesome. That does great for them. We do something a little bit different, where we do, hey, we're putting it on Kickstarter, and whatever we do on Kickstarter is what we're going to need to have. The reason we like that is because of the word of mouth element of, if we're doing a cool project, and we have put in the effort and put in the forethought to make it approachable, to make it something that people want to back, what you will have is you will have people come on board, and then they will start talking about it, and they will pull in more people, and then you'll have more marketing, and as you develop more assets, and as you hit stretch goals, you can do a lot more marketing than something that was just kind of like a cold launch. So if you're a massive company and you're doing a cold launch, that's great, that's what you should do. But if you guys are a bit more starting out, Kickstarter is fucking amazing, because you can be like, I'm launching this project, here's this really cool piece of art. By the way, I'm launching this project, here's this other really cool piece of art. And people start talking about it and sharing it, and especially if you're parts of those communities that Angie starts talking about, then they will start kind of churning it. It won't always work, you can't promise success, but the thing that is so cool about Kickstarter is that if you do it well, then even just being part of the community, even if your first project fucking fails, you haven't failed at anything. You've spent 40 hours learning how to do the next one a lot better. And there's a couple of people that we keep backing that if you go way back, they're like, my first one was $100, my second one failed, my third one failed, my fourth one was $400, and their most recent one is like $250,000.
Because you learn so much from a failed Kickstarter, and the way that money works on the platform, you don't lose anything if you don't reach your goal. You have never been charged. Kickstarter doesn't take a fee. No money changes hands. So instead, you can look at it as like a really good learning opportunity to see what you could do better the next time.
Another example is actually an author that is on one of our sharing Slacks who he launched a 5-book Kickstarter. It didn't do well. He ended up canceling it. He just relaunched for just the first book. It funded in one day, and it is going bananas. And so it's all the same art, it's the same product, but he figured out that he needed to separate out the books and just build more of a following before he launched, and it's doing amazing. So really, even if you do a project and it doesn't do well, that doesn't mean the project is done. It just means you might need to come back at it from a different angle.
Absolutely. So one of the things that's been true for us in running our projects is, and I've said this in panels before, is that if you want crowdfunding to work, you need to bring your own crowd. Does that feel true to you, or are there tools? Okay, please talk to me about that. Because if there's ways to have a crowd just show up without me having to bring it, I want to know about that.
Well, I'll give the from within Kickstarter. So it sounds like y'all are in a different category, but on publishing, about like 20 to 35% of your backers are going to come through the general Kickstarter ecosystem. So that's not nothing, but it's not everything. Kickstarter is designed to have an amplifying effect, so it is important for you to bring your people first, for you to demonstrate some initial traction, because that signals to our discovery engine that people are liking, they're backing, they're clicking, they're commenting, they're excited about it, and that helps us elevate it to many more people who just don't know that they're your fans yet. I'm assuming you're mostly all in games. The games percentage is higher, but I don't know anything about the sort of splits from like big companies versus like emerging writers and things like that. I don't have a lot of statistical info about the games team, but I do have business cards, so if people have more specific questions, I can find out. Come and talk to me after.
So I have a strong opinion about that.
I was going to say essentially what Oriana did, which is that you do need to bring a base following or a fan base. And it can be a trick to teach your fans or your followers or your circles to come to Kickstarter if they're not used to it. And I think part of that piece that is really helpful is being able to have a pre-launch page on Kickstarter, so you can see how many people are following your thing and your project, and knowing that there's a conversion rate, right? So if there's 100 people following you, maybe 30 will actually back you. It's not a 1-to-1, it's not even a 1-to-2.
But it's a much higher conversion, not to cut you off, than like your Twitter following back in the day, or like any other. It is. We do see a really high conversion from pre-launch followers to project backers, and they tend to do it right away, like day one.
Which gives you momentum.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of one of the critical pieces is yes, you have to bring your following. You have time, you can set up a pre-launch page, it can run for like, I don't know how long.
As long as you want.
There you go,
But
7 years.
you can, but I think if you want to, it's best designed for like 2 to 4 weeks because you really kind of want it to be like a crescendo into the burst of launch. Somebody follows your page and then 9 months later,
They're gonna
figure
forget
out
what
that
it was
your
about.
campaign is live. It's not going to have the same effect.
I have a little bit of a hot take,
Please.
Yes, please.
which is that Kickstarter can be one of the places where you can build your audience and platform.
Sure.
So I was very, very fortunate with my first project in that the reason we discovered that we could do deluxe editions for other people was that I had a project of my own. I did a deluxe edition of my own. It raised $50,000, which at the time was, it's great. Like it's still very, very good. And I was like, okay, like maybe this is something that we can do for other people. And I had brought in my own audience and we kind of rolled from there. But I think BI books might be an example of this. Again, when we go back and we look at people who have done 10, 20, 30 campaigns, we will see people, even in the board game space, you'll look at some, and the first thing that they did was like a simple card game. And it was a thing that needed $500 to $1,000. And even if you're starting from almost nothing, $500 to $1,000 is something that you can probably get from just like making sure that you're talking to people and being in the community. And if you give them a quality product, then you are going to get 2, 3, 4, 10 people who are going to be like, this is cool, this is worth it. We started at 50, which again, we were very fortunate. We just finished our second $1 million campaign yesterday. And we have a group of people who every campaign in the comments are laughing and battling about who got to back first. And so it's not the place that you should build your entire platform, but bringing as many people as you can to Kickstarter is important to get an engine going, but Kickstarter can also be, I think that is like a pseudo social media space because if you are running, even if it's like one campaign a year, one campaign every 2 years, if you're giving them a quality product and you start small, you can develop an actual audience on Kickstarter. Like, I know this for a fact.
Oh, for sure. I used to have in my head stats about the percent increase for repeat creators, like how many more people return to back them each time, but it's good and high. And I was gonna say Kickstarter does function somewhat like a social platform, except better because we don't have an intermediary algorithm. Like, you know, as we've all learned over the last decade, you can spend a lot of time building up a following here or there, and then the owners of that platform change the algorithm, they deprioritize this or that, and suddenly you've lost access to that crowd. Kickstarter is all about collapsing those boundaries between a creator and their supporters by giving them direct access to you and you to them.
Listening to you, it sounds like obviously Oriana has made Kickstarter a business model for herself and her life, but you seem like you are married to continually building your business based on Kickstarter project to project. Is that true for both of you? True for you?
It is very true for me. So it's a little bit harder to explain if you guys aren't super familiar with book boxes, but it's completely, I can make a metaphor, I can make this work. We basically did so actually we're gonna do this again. Raise your hand if you want to do one project. Okay, raise your hand if you would like to do more than one project eventually. Awesome, great. So this is where I come in. Yay, I'm relevant. We had a vertical growth element. So our entire point was we're going to start small, and we worked up to a slightly larger author. Does anybody here read sci-fi fantasy? Fantastic, okay. After my stuff, we worked with someone named number 3, who was a bigger author than I was, and we went from 50 to like 100. And then we got to work with, does anybody know who M.L. Wong is? Sort of again, great, fantastic. Now a New York Times bestselling author, at the time, just a big indie. And we got to go to M.L. Wong. And then that kept increasing until we just did our second project with the World of Aragon by Christopher Paolini. That model has allowed me to make Kickstarter, crowdfunding I should say, to make crowdfunding a business. There are hurdles with that. There are some things that are much easier and there's some things that are much harder. But I am I say this out loud all the time. As long as Oriana works at Kickstarter, then we're married to Kickstarter. If you leave, well, it's different.
I would never. I have no intention of ever leaving. In case my bosses are recording this.
Hey, as long as we're there, you're not leaving. That's how it works. It's symbiotic. Oh my God, we finished it now. Okay. But yes, it is absolutely possible to build a company and brand on Kickstarter. I would not recommend looking at ours as a model of like, this is what I want to do, because again, I'm very lucky that I brought a pretty significant audience to the space, and then I was also lucky that I had the capital to just immediately start hiring a team. We're up to 12 people now, so it's not the same. So I wouldn't use us as a model. There are other companies that do supplement their income as a company and then build into something much better. But you can absolutely do it. Like if you're smart about it, if you're scheduled about it, if you fucking communicate. The only unsolicited piece of advice: communicate.
There's a rant there. I want to hear it. Go ahead and talk to us about the importance of communication in Kickstarter. Very, very briefly.
Very, very briefly. If you don't communicate with your backers, you're gonna fail. Done. In the short term, you might get one project done and it'll be good, and then in the long term, you're never gonna build that audience. Like we said, no one's gonna trust you, no one's gonna want to work with you. Just fucking communicate with your backers. It's not that hard. Take 15 minutes a day to answer comments.
But to add to that, I think you will find, at least in books, again, I don't know as much about games, but Kickstarter backers they're less price sensitive, they're far less bothered by delays, so long as you are transparent with them.
Yes.
Part of being in the community of a Kickstarter backer is you get to watch the process of creativity happen, so people are far more forgiving if there was this thing that you didn't think of, or if the books, fell off a boat on their way here in the ocean, or, something like that, so long as you are being very, very openly transparent about what's going on.
I'm going to jump on that super quick.
Yeah.
We did a $500,000 campaign last year, and we basically, not so much, we completely forgot about it for about 4 months. That's not actually what happened. There was a miscommunication. There was a miscommunication within the team that we thought that a bunch of stuff was happening, and someone thought, and basically for 4 months we were like, everyone else is doing something, and no one was doing anything. And we put an update out last week, and we were like, guys, we fucked up. And every single comment is like, thanks for telling us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. Shit happens.
So I'm just coming back to kind of your original question around kind of Kickstarter. I mean, but all of that also speaks to the community aspect of Kickstarter that we talked about. But I want to go back to the question of Kickstarter as a model of business, and it is one of the things that I sat down about 2 or 3 years ago. And it was like, as an author, I really want to diversify my income. And I think it's important, whether you're gaming or whatever your indie gig is, so to speak. Having diverse streams of income are really important, because you don't know when something's going to go off, right? So used to be that Instagram and Twitter were great ways to reach readers, and they now suck, right? So that's no longer part of my business plan. And so Kickstarter is currently part of my business plan, and as long as Oriana is there, it probably will continue to be. It's a really critical piece for me right now, but it wasn't part of my plan 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know where it will be in 3 or 5 or 10 years. But it's one piece of it. I'm also on Patreon. I'm also, I'm working towards direct selling books to readers, because I think that cutting out places like Amazon might be helpful for me in the long run, because they keep changing their algorithms. They're so opaque, and they're right now I'm trying to go direct with audio, because the Amazon audiobook division is just really messed up, and we can have a whole rant about that. But one of the things that has been really cool, even walking through the vendor hall here, or the exhibit hall here at GenCon, is that I see games that I backed on Kickstarter that are now here. And so just thinking about Kickstarter as a place to launch, to get that original funding, and then being really conscious about having diverse ways to reach your audience and reel them in. So how many places have I gone where they're there's a launched on Kickstarter sticker, and then hey, here's a QR code to follow our next project on Kickstarter, and I'm yes, this is. So just being aware of these things knowing that there's going to be multiple ways, and you never like, I love Kickstarter, but I will not put all my eggs in that basket.
Totally.
You know,
You
because,
shouldn't.
and also because, especially with the book, royalties come monthly once you're out there, right? Whereas Kickstarter for me is just one big bang, and then I'll list my backlist, but it's really the new bang that's going to sell, right? And so it's really like it's one piece of the puzzle.
All right, I want to open up for questions from the audience, if somebody has a question. In the very back.
I would like the panelists to advise on.
I can't
I'm
hear.
sorry, I
Sorry,
can't
would you
hear.
mind coming up here, actually?
Yeah.
That might be helpful. Sorry to make
There's
you
a lot of noise
Yeah.
right behind us.
They're not sharing cross, unfortunately.
Yes.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
Could the panelists advise on when the expected cost of a project change in response to things like tariffs?
The question was, can the panelists advise on what to do when price changes based on external factors like tariffs?
Oh yeah, that doesn't affect me at all.
We had panic attacks in January,
Oh,
February, and March, and April.
$400,000 worth of panic attacks.
Yes, yeah.
We did our Saphira. We did a model of the Dragon Saphira from the Aragon series. If you guys are familiar with it, last year we raised about 1.6 on Kickstarter, and then another 300,000 post. That is not to brag. That is to say that when the tariffs showed up, we had a $400,000 unexpected thing. And you want to know what's funny about that? We didn't expect it. So it's a really, really good question. There is a level, in my experience, and it'll probably be different for you. So there's a level of which you cannot expect every single variable. I would never, even beforehand, even now, I'm not going to tell you to plan for a 150% increase in the cost of your book. That would be silly, especially if you're willing to communicate with your backers. If you did good communication throughout, and you're like, hey guys, I said I have this in a year, it's probably going to be 7. That's an exaggeration. But if you say, I have to wait out the tariffs, or this is not going to work, as long as you continue communicating with them, you have ways out of that. However, it is very valuable to, when you are doing your calculations of like what my product costs are going to be as they decrease over the amount that I'm going to get, what my overhead is, to build in a safety net. So our books, we print on average probably about 4,000 to 6,000 books per run. Thank you. Which includes a big overprint, because it's not just about selling on Kickstarter, it's also having the books to come here, or the games to come here and sell. So when we do those math calculations, we build in a conservative estimate. We don't double the price, but we say, hey, these units at 1,000, at 2,000, at 3,000 are going to drop in cost. We kind of knock those down by 1, so that when we get the bill, it's way less than we expected. Because if you build that in, and especially if you communicate that with your backers, then you have a layer of security that is going to protect you if shit hits the, well, unless there's 150,000%. But when shit hits the fan, you have a layer of security that is going to protect you. And again, I hate to harp on it, but the biggest security thing that you can do for this is communicate with your backers. Because if something goes wrong, and they know that you're talking to them, and they know that you're transparent, 99% of them are going to be chill, and the other 1% are going to get fucking dogpiled when they're like, it's a thing.
and you can always refund that 1% that
Yeah. I was going to say, from the Kickstarter side, something like the tariffs, while horrible and horrifying for so many of our creators, that's not like something that affected one person. That is in the air. Everybody knows. Your backers have already heard that the tariffs are going crazy. Kickstarter just released our own pledge management system, which is all the post-campaign tools and logistics, and one of the things in there is we have a tariff tool, so you can both kind of make some calculations about what your tariffs will be, and if you decide you want to, you can go to your backers and say, if everybody felt like giving us $5 to $10 more, that would cover us in this like huge unexpected bill. So we're also trying to help where we can.
Yeah, awesome. All right, next question. Here in yellow.
I just want to double check what I've heard earlier this morning. First, it's like organic doesn't exist anymore. Like 10
Oh, no,
years
it
ago.
exists on Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
And the second advice I got is like we fed along maybe 2 to 4 projects in 1 year? Is that a good momentum for?
Well, so technically on Kickstarter, you, especially when you're just starting out, you must completely fulfill your first project before you launch your second. This is different category to category. I think games is the same as publishing, where once you've done 4 projects completely fulfilled, you can now have up to 6 with overlapping fulfillment. That's not overlapping campaigns. That means you can have some undone. There are some nuances there, but that's the general idea. And I will just say that's not done because we're trying to be mean or draconian. It's because, once you want to establish trust with your backers and your community, so you want to demonstrate to them, yeah, we can do this thing that we said we could do. We can put this item in your hands and it'll look like you wanted it to, and now will you give us money for the next thing? So that's from our rules perspective. As far as like business-wise, I mean, Wraithmark has special dispensation to run more projects than most creators. I would say 2 to 4 years seems perfectly fine, so long as you can keep up with the schedules that you're setting for yourself.
I would caution you about your own mental health with that many projects. It may not be sustainable for you.
I think that's, I was about to say that, is that as a small creator, as someone who's, especially with your first Kickstarter, you're learning a lot. Do not bite off more than you can chew. I know as an author, when I first started out into publishing, people were like, you need to have a book every other month. And I was like, I cannot write 6 books in a year. Like, that's bananas. There are people who do that. And I take my, scarf off to them. But it is not possible again. So there may be people who can run 4 Kickstarters in a year. And you might be one of them, but you also might not. And it is okay. It's really important to look out both for your own mental health, as you said, but also for your backers, for the product you're delivering.
Just the tracking.
Yeah.
Just the logistics and tracking on that terrifies me. I've been doing this for 12 years, and I wouldn't do that many.
I don't want multiple things running at the same time. I don't have a spreadsheet brain. Some people do. But the thing is also just that if you're trying to build trust with your backers, having that communication, delivering the products, it took me, I do my Kickstarters roughly a year apart, sometimes a little more, and it doesn't really matter. When I have a new project, I post updates to my old campaigns, and I'm like, hey, I have a new book out. Here's a link, and I always get people clicking on that link. And one of the wonderful things about Kickstarter is you can make custom links so you can track who's clicking on them. And I always get people coming over to the new projects. So, I don't think there's a sense of momentum on Kickstarter, Oriana, correct me if I'm wrong, because the algorithms don't work like they do in publishing or in other.
Oh, it's not like Amazon.
On retailers, like
Amazon.
Amazon does. Reward you or prioritize you as you have more and more new releases or more and more new products.
Yeah,
Kickstarter
Kickstarter's
doesn't
not
do
good.
that. So you don't have to be on the hamster wheel in order to get anywhere.
There's one quick thing I want to add to that, which is, so the communication with your backers is always my first. The second one I've already harped on a little bit is ask for help. And I mean that as in like your fellow creators, but I also mean as in like your friends and family and stuff, like if they're willing to help you fulfill, help you do these things, because we run, again, this is one of the reasons why I say don't use this necessarily as a model, we run 12 to 16 campaigns a year. I have 12 people working for me, and they want to fucking kill me half the time. So
And that's 16 years theoretical. You've never done that yet.
Oh no, with which song we usually had so we had like a different. What did you talk about?
Fine.
We had a second brand that was also doing an book. That's but ask for help, and if you have the opportunity, because I know it's not easy, but if things are working and things are going, hire help. Like build a team, find people who are smarter than you. It's not hard when it's me, it might be hard when it's you, but it's possible to find people who are smarter than you and ask for help and hire the best people you can, because that will make everything a lot, I don't want to say easier, but safer, if that makes sense.
Awesome. The blue shirt here.
So the question is, does Kickstarter have like a consulting team to work with newbies, right, that have not done Kickstarters, but have are targeting a space that's quite popular. So for example, my buddy and I have gone back several Money Cook RPG campaigns in the past. But as a first timer who is maybe entering the market and doesn't really know exactly what to prepare for, things like, hey, how long in advance should you be looking to kind of start building your base before you launch? And what are the red flags to say, nope, we're not ready yet, we got to pull back? And all these sort of logistical things that might be way over our head.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there are an infinite number of people who would like one-on-one time with Kickstarter, and we are a really, really small staff, so there's not really, we have tried, I mean, I've been at Kickstarter 5.5 years, so I've seen various programs like that kind of come and go. I would say that goes back to the very beginning of what we were talking about. Look within your own community, try to find mentorship within other folks who have done a similar thing, or work with other people who are about at your same level. We do have a lot of educational resources. We just relaunched, I think earlier this year, the Kickstarter Learning Lab, which is a series of like video tutorials about each step. We've got, I mean, I've written a number of articles for our blog that are, best practices for pricing your rewards, and like, there's a lot of resources available from us. And there, in fact, I mean, in comics, there's a guy called Tayler Jones who runs with Tyler James. There are lots of people in the world who are, campaign consultants and have a lot of experience that you can talk to. So I would look within your community and see what you can find there.
All right, in the back here.
Would you all have any experience or opinions with marketing consulting services? I know for like tabletop games, I think they do more than that, but that's where I'm coming to this from. There's a company called Launchboom that does marketing consulting. If you're all familiar with those, you have opinions on those types of services?
The question is about marketing consulting services like Launchboom. Do you want to?
I have thoughts. So we have worked with several people. The only people that have been effective is actually, and I'm not paid for this, is Kickstarter's ad team. They've recently started their own marketing services, and it's been the only group that has been effective for us. There are multiple reasons for that. One of the things that I would really highlight for you guys, if you have a marketing budget and you want to try something out and you have the flexibility to it, it's really worth trying various things, because every project is different, every art style will hit differently, every creative will hit differently. But in my experience, and I can only speak from my experience, I've done everything from Aragon to 3 months later I did a $5,000 book campaign. And when you do paid marketing for unknown IPs, no one cares. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just, money is tight right now. Even people who are big board game fans and big book fans, they are not totally unlikely, but they are less likely to pick up your random board game that they have never heard of, even if you have the best creatives in the world, than they are if you're working with like a big IP. So when I do marketing for Aragon, I can spend money all day, and I'm probably going to make that money back in some way. But if I was doing marketing for like even my own stuff, then paying for marketing doesn't usually translate very well. There are a lot of other ways that you could explore marketing, but in my personal experience, and this is where I think that you go like us, just spending that time, energy, and money on developing your own brand, on developing the next thing, and on making sure that your product is the best possible thing, and on working in communities to build your audience and that communication, that's, in my experience, what I think probably works best.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would say authentic audience building. I mean, there are a lot of people like the design and tech category who swear by Launchboom. I'm not denigrating that company. I've never worked with them. But yeah, in the creative categories, an authentic audience that actually cares about what you're doing, from everyone I talk to, is always going to be more effective than paid ads.
I think those marketing companies work well for the
Gadgets.
gadgets and text and things, which means they don't actually understand marketing to the game space.
Yeah.
Their marketing doesn't do well here because they don't understand you all. They don't understand me. And so they don't know how to market, and that falls flat.
So I'll take your money.
Awesome. Do we have, let me look at the time. Actually, we don't have time for more questions. What I would like to do is each of you tell us a pitfall that everyone should avoid quickly, And then a second round will be give us an inspirational thought, like give us a moment of hope.
So a pitfall to avoid for me, the reverse way of saying that is you have to make sure that your ambition matches your reach. That's the way to figure out your funding goal, your chance of success. Like understand what you need fully, do real budgets, get real samples, and do an honest assessment of what your audience looks like and your ability to reach them. You need to make sure that those two are about in harmony, and that's how you're going to be. That's your best predictor of crowdfunding success.
Yeah, I'm going to mirror kind of off that a little bit, which is keep it simple, stupid. You've heard it before, but also like be aware of your own abilities and I don't mean like hey, you can't do this, but like do you have the capability of doing this? The time and the investment you may not realize. So like people, especially like let's say one of you guys it takes off and you're like 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. Don't add on 1,000 stretch goals. Don't start with 1,000 stretch goals. Don't start with 57 tiers. Have 3 tiers. Have 3 stretch goals that you are well acquainted with. Maybe have 1 or 2 ideas for things that you could add on. But talk to people about how complicated that gets because people you won't realize how like, hey, I want to add 2 options for a sticker, and then I'll stretch goal a third. You have tripled your complication on fulfillment and you haven't even realized it. So keep it simple, at least initially.
All of that.
Yeah.
I think that, gosh, it just went out of my head. I have one more thing to add on to that.
Do you have a pitfall to share while she's thinking?
Yeah. Shipping is be very, very careful with your math and triple, double check it. And also collect the shipping money as closely as possible to when you are actually going to ship because the landscape keeps changing. Yeah, I collected shipping money a year before shipping once. It was very, very bad because they literally changed the way that shipping is calculated from weight-based to volume-based. And yeah, this was like in 2015, so it was bad. You can be in very big holes with shipping. So, yeah.
I think, just going from that, from what's been said, I really agree with everyone. Be aware of how much time and energy it's going to take. And it is okay not to have lots of stretch goals. It's okay not to promise a lot. Think about stretch goals that allow you to just improve what you're already offering rather than change it or add something new. Or that are digital and are really easy to send out. But again, thinking about what that involves to do. Because again, like Bryce said, it gets complicated. And you end up spending like hundreds of hours on a Kickstarter because you didn't think through the ramifications of it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming. You can do this. We'll end with